Hello, I'm Lydia and you're listening to Lens from the Fens. Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode for Lens from the Fens. I hope that everyone is doing okay. So in the last 24 hours from the time that this is being recorded, there has been a government announcement regarding a staged roadmap out of lockdown, which results in possibly from the 8th of March, one person meeting up with another, not just for exercise but also for recreational activities, whether that be sitting on a bench, having a cup of coffee, or just general distance socialising with another person. So with that being said, it's possible that I'll be able to go out and do more photography, which is a really nice thing to think about. There's obviously a lot more happening in the coming months in terms of what we can do and places we can travel. But yeah, hopefully from the 8th of March I'll be able to go back out to the riverbank a lot more often than I am doing now, and just venture a little bit further than from my village. So yeah, that's really promising to look at. I have missed going out with my camera as much as I have been, so we'll just see what the next few weeks involves. So if you've been listening to my last few episodes, I've been going through some memories and some stories involving wildlife over the past few years. And this is basically another one of those. But compared to last week, I will be sticking very close to home. More often than not, I am able to see an awful lot of birds of prey in this area, resulting in either buzzards or red kites. There's been marsh harriers, plenty of kestrels, and I think one other bird of prey that I envisage as one of the main birds of the fens is that of the barn owl. I get to see them along the riverbank when I'm driving to work or going out with my camera when I'm able to do that again. So I often stay in my car and I can just watch them go up and down the riverbank or on the fields opposite it. And yeah, they're just a beautiful looking bird, and I have seen them plenty of times throughout my life. There's a small population near me, but there has been a few breeding pairs around the area as well, which is a really good sign. So as a lot of people will know, they are nocturnal birds, so they'll more often hunt at night or at any time between dawn and dusk. But they are resident to the UK, so you can pretty much see barn owls all year round through winter and in the summer months. So they are known by other names such as ghost owl, which is quite evident as in their appearance and the way that they just glide across fields. They're also known as church owls and screech owls. Screech owls basically interpreting the way that they call. It's a very eerie sort of screech sound that they make, whether that be a courting call or just alerting other barn owls nearby. And it is the more rural communities that often refer them as demon owls, again in regards to the shrieks and the hisses that they make, which I find quite intriguing. There's quite a lot of history with them being known as demon owls more than anything else, so that's quite interesting, an interesting fact that I found out. So in terms of their appearance, barn owls feature a pure white underside, a mottled grey back with a distinctive heart-shaped head, which actually acts as a satellite dish to help pinpoint the smallest sounds made by the prey that they hunt, which often includes field voles, bank voles, field mice, brown mice, and common shrews. They can live up to an average of 4 years in the wild and can lay between 4 and 6 eggs, mainly within the spring. So quite a few of you may not know that I have a slight fascination with bird feet. So to get a bit more specific, barn owls feature 3 talons which point forward and 1 talon that points backwards, known as raptorials. And this is found in all types of raptors and birds of prey around the world. But what makes barn owls unique is that the owls have the ability to rotate one of their front talons to face backwards, enabling the owl to make a firm grasp on its potentially squirming prey, which is, again, it's fascinating to know that over time they've managed to develop these features and have evolved to either better hunt or capture their prey. So the owl species cannot actually chew their food, so they would either swallow small prey items whole, or they would tear off chunks of their larger size prey. If they ever happen to catch things like a rat, they'd have to tear it off with their beak and then swallow chunks at a time. Several hours would then pass, and following their meal, the parts of the prey that couldn't be digested, such as bones, fur and teeth, are they compressed and they eventually form a pellet, which is later on regurgitated. So they would dispel the non-nutrient stuff and just keep parts of the meat and organs to help sustain their bodies. So as I mentioned a bit earlier, I often see barn owls hunt across the fields and along the riverbank, about 5-10 minutes from my house. And a few summers ago, I went out along parts of the riverbank very often because I saw a number of individual barn owls hunting there, and I thought I'd spend my time either at dawn or dusk to take my camera out and basically sit in my car and see what pictures I could get from it at the time. This is dating back to around 2017, so it was a few summers ago, but I just remember that summer I went out, not every day, but probably every other night or every other early morning, just to see these barn owls hunt. And at that point in time, I was obviously a lot more involved with photography, but I still hadn't developed skills in which to implement different scenarios. So obviously, because the barn owls were a moving subject, I hadn't really quite got the grasp of photographing them in flight, and I'd often rely on the automatic setting of my camera just to capture them, rather than consider what the environment's like, if I'm dealing with too much light or not enough light, and how to incorporate that into manually adjusting my shutter speed or my aperture or my ISO. So I often arrived just before sunset, with about an hour to half an hour until the sun would hit the horizon. So that allowed enough time for me to see and photograph the owls before the daylight diminished completely. And as I said, I did do a couple of dawn trips as well, but they seemed a lot more active towards dusk around that time. As I mentioned earlier, I would go out in my car and I'd park up off the main road. Well, it's basically a back road, but I'd park up off the main road and I would basically use my car as both a hide and a tripod. At the time, I was using my 300mm, which was the smallest one I owned, but still a pretty good length to it. And once the barn owls arrived, they were obviously a lot more focused on catching a meal than they were focusing on me. At least one barn owl showed up each time. There was a time where there was, I think, about 3 individuals going up and down different parts of the riverbank, so I would often just focus on the 1 or the 2 that were closest to me. And they were just constantly gliding up and down the bank multiple times. There was a lot of hovering as well, where if they were to hear a sound from either a mouse or a vole, they would hover over that patch for a longer amount of time before they would just dive straight down, feet first. And quite a few times they didn't catch anything, but it was just amazing to see their process of hunting, from gliding to hovering and then just shooting straight down into the grass, where unfortunately I couldn't really get a picture of that happening. Going back over those images, as I said earlier, I wasn't fully aware of the process of taking certain pictures in terms of if my subject was moving or considering the amount of daylight I had. So I believe at the time I was purely focused on having it on automatic setting, with the prospects of the camera adjusting to what was available and just seeing what pictures came out of it. So just looking at my properties on the raw images that I took, I had the camera was set at ISO 100 with 1/400th of a second shutter speed, and then the aperture at f7. So looking back on it, I would have definitely upped the ISO just to counteract the amount of daylight that I had during that time. And Also, the shutter speed would have definitely been a lot higher because a lot of the images, they were slightly blurry. And I think with having the mindset to do manual, I would have obviously known to have a much higher shutter speed or faster shutter speed in order to get those crisp, clear in-flight shots. I think it would be nice, especially this summer, to go and do that again. Go out either every other morning or at dusk times, just because I know that they're still around. I've seen a couple of individuals this year flying over the village at night, which is, again, a really nice thing to see. And I think just from having a better idea of how to work my camera manually and my Sigma lens, and actually considering what sort of image I want to get out of it, I think I definitely have a better chance of getting either closer shots of the barn owls or having those in-flight images where it's a lot more clearer and a lot more sharper. I did actually post an unseen image from that summer with a barn owl resting on one of the fence posts that line the main road that I was visiting. So you are more than welcome to check that out via my Pinfall photographic pages. And I have my fingers crossed that I'll be able to venture out again with my camera and get some even better barn owl photographs from it. So leading up to this recording, I went out towards a neighbouring village to do some food shopping, and it was en route to the supermarket that on the neighbouring fields that are on either side of the main road, I noticed there were quite a few male pheasants out, as there would be on the farmers' fields near where I live, but I actually spotted a not fully white, but a prominently white male pheasant. And I've actually been seeing him for, since winter. When I've been going out to do the food shop, I've just managed to pick out this predominantly white male pheasant in the farmer's field. So again, with restrictions soon to be changing, I would love to go to that area, get out of my car and actually possibly walk around the border of that field to try and get a picture of it. So I have my fingers crossed that I'll be able to get a picture of that for you to show you guys, because he's an extraordinary looking pheasant. It was also on that same field where I managed to see a few hares chasing each other. With it coming up to March Madness, it's that time where there's a lot more frequent hare activity. The males and the females will be boxing each other, either to just steer away the males if it's a female doing it, or males competing to get the females. So that was really nice to see. It was distant, but again, it was just a nice sight to see them running across the fields. And there was also 2 or 3 buzzards which were hovering or flying around a wooded patch next to the field. So even if you're just driving along and you get to see wildlife wherever you look, it's really nice, and it just provides a bit of escapism for the everyday working life, or for those who have been very restricted as to where they can go and what they can do. Just think that nature is always going to be there for you. So this has been a relatively short episode in comparison to my earlier ones, but thank you all again very much for listening. I am feeling very much optimistic about the future now, in the hopes that I can travel a little bit further with my camera to get some more recent pictures of fenland wildlife for you. But in the meantime, I hope that you've been enjoying these little tales and facts about some of the local wildlife close to me. And we'll see what the next few weeks will bring. But otherwise, I shall speak to you all again next time. Goodbye. My podcast cover shows my own image created using Canva. The theme music is provided by Purple Planet Music. Check out their royalty-free music at purple-planet.com.